Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Scrapbooking Photographer. Linda's my name, and today you're joining me for a video hop to do with anything sparkly, sequins, glitter, or anything like that. So, there's lots of people taking part in this hop, so I'm very keen to see what they've put together. But I find myself in March without having done anything with my Christmas photos yet. So I decided what better to do something sparkly with than Christmas photos. So these are photos of the Christmas tree at my daughter's house because our tree wasn't as nice as hers. So I'm going to be using those as the title page for my Christmas 2022. And to go with them as sparkles, I have some sequins, I have some glitter paper, and I have some holographic paper, which is a latest craze of mine. I seem to be finding more and more things that I can do with this as I get into it. So let's put it all aside and get started. My base piece for today is White Daisy, and I'm going to use this piece of patterned paper from the Christmas Story range from Close to My Heart. So I'll just take the zip strip off here, and then I'm going to cut the middle piece out because I only want the edge to frame the White Daisy really. Using the ruler I can start in about 1 inch and go all the way around measuring it. Just make sure though when you do this that the blade doesn't come down halfway through or you get a bit of a cut edge, which doesn't matter for this piece because it's going to be hidden. But for the square piece out of the middle that I'll reuse at another time, I'd like all the edges nice and smooth. So I'll put that to one side, and then I can stick this down and get it ready to put the next layer on. And the next layer to go on is our holographic piece. So I want to bring it in about 1/2 inch all the way around so we still see that scarlet pattern paper. And that means I just need to trim 1 inch off 2 sides, making it an 11-inch square piece of holographic paper, which will fit on top of our patterned paper. The holographic paper has been interesting to get to use. Its reflective qualities make it a bit of a challenge to put with other things, but this colour is called Dreamy, and it seems to work really well today with the pictures of the white tinsel and the stars on Jen's tree. So I'm just putting these photos down and figuring out how they're going to line up on the page. The centre one is obviously going to be the one with the close-up of the star, and the other two I'm going to position somehow one each side and just trim a little bit off to make them slightly narrower. Certainly don't need the bookcase in the picture, so I'll crop that off to start with and then make the other side exactly the same width and see how that looks. With one, this picture in particular seems to veer to the left, so I do want that on the left hand side and balance that with the other tree on the right. And that makes them look like they're kind of fanning out with the central point being the star at the top. But it's not quite narrow enough yet. We need a little bit more of that distracting bookshelf off there. And with this one, I'll turn it up the other way to take the same amount off that side. And I think that's going to work a lot better. So they look quite good lined up like that. And I just need to mount them now to bring them out a little bit from the Dreamy paper. So I'm going to use Scarlet, which will blend in nicely with the background. I only want a very fine colour of scarlet around the photos, so I'm just going to measure about 1/4 inch extra and put them on there. Now these two, I'll measure they're 3 1/4, which is fine, so you can measure it to be 3 1/2 wide, and that gives it an extra 1/4 inch to go around the outside. But to fit both of them into the one strip, I'm just going to trim a little bit off the edge so that they come down to being 5.5 inches each, which means I can trim my scarlet to 5 3/4, and that gives a nice backing to them without overpowering it with the scarlet, and it just brings out a little bit of the red on the tree and the decorations as well. So I've gone ahead and adhered the photos to the scarlet paper, and now I'm just measuring this up so that we get it exactly in the middle. So putting the paper onto the Versamat works really well, and using the T-square just to make sure that it's level, that also works well. And also with the ones on the side, I'm going to put the first one in so that it looks right, and I don't really want to cover up too much of that centre tree, but I've got those points there, and then with the one on the left I'm just going to even them up with the other one using the T-square again, so I start in the right place and get it all popped down evenly. Once everything's in place on the front, I'll turn it over, attach my double-sided runner and put the holographic paper onto the page. So that's starting to take shape. This stamp set comes with die cuts for decorations, and I'm just going to cut a couple out of the scarlet paper using the Cuttlebug machine. So on my Cuttlebug machine I have a white plate, some sponge and a cutting plate, which I try and use the same cutting plate each time, but it hasn't always worked, so I do have some cut marks on my top plate, but it doesn't matter, it works well. So we put it through and crank it through, and we'll do that twice to get 2 decorations. I always find it's good to hold the machine on the right hand side just above the handle, and it seems to stop it moving quite so much. So we'll just put that through for a second time to get our second decoration, and then we can look to decorate them with some embossing powder. When you're embossing, it's really good to wipe over with the anti-static pouch, and that just stops the powder getting anywhere that you don't want it. And once we've done that, I'm just going to put some masking tape over the top half of our decorations, because I only want the stamp to show up on the bottom half. So using the Versamark glue, putting it on the bottom half, and then sprinkling the embossing powder quite generously over the bottom half, and that's why we've got it on a piece of white scrap paper, because we'll put all the excess onto that and then tip it back into the bottle. I had a wee accident when I did this bit, and some of it went off the back of the paper, which was quite annoying, but that's okay. I'll put the lid back on what we have managed to save and clean up. Coming back with these ones, we use the heat gun, and I'll try and bring it up close so that you can see the grey gradually turn to silver, but it does get quite warm, so it's a little bit of changing the fingers around that hold it. If I had a pair of tweezers that might work better, but I haven't got any at the moment. So we'll dry all those off and make them all pretty, and then take the masking tape off, and that's worked beautifully because we've got them just on the bottom half. Cleaning the stamp, putting it back and bringing it all into the page. Now I did go away and do the little bows that go on top of the decorations too, so these are going to go up on the top. With these 2 scarlet bits up the top, I really want to bring some scarlet in the bottom. So I'm going to use this Christmas die cut, which has 2 parts to it. So I've done the background in the silver glitter paper, and then this piece that goes around the outside in the scarlet. The piercing tool is great for getting rid of the tiny little bits that get stuck in when it goes through the Cuttlebug. And I find the liquid glass in my stash is a better way to adhere the background to the glitter rather than the glue, which tends to be a little bit thick and kind of spreads out where we don't want it. So I haven't filmed the whole process of cutting this out and putting it together because it does take quite a while. But this part of just manoeuvring the outline so that it covers all the important bits and it lines up, and also finding the A and the R outline and just putting those in there too. So these just go, they're quite fiddly, and again I find a need for a pair of tweezers. I might have to invest, I think. So I'm putting the A on here as well. The style of letters used in that Christmas die cut correspond quite nicely with some old discontinued dies for numbers. So I have cut out the 2022 in the silver, and I quite like the way it blends into the Dreamy Holographic paper. So that's going to finish that off, and once it's all stuck down, I'm afraid something didn't film the adding of sequins and things, but there are some glittery bits added on at the bottom there and in each corner up the top. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. Please remember to check out everybody else who's joining this hop so that you can see what all the different creators have come up with for Shiny. Here's some close-ups of my project. Thanks for watching.